What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another rating video. Now, this video is just going to be the 10 world record speedruns alone, just the one run for each one, unlike the sister video I did recently, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But as you can see, the first run here is going to be Haderax, and we melt him in just 5 seconds and 7 frames. Very, very fast kill. But if you did see the video I did recently, it was more of the story of how I got all these records, the journey I went on, and I showed a lot of runs that built up to these speed runs. So I thought it would be good just to do one video like this, which just has all the runs together. So here's Terramorphous. Now, a lot of people ask me how I do so much damage in some of these raid bosses. Guys, the main thing is probably your positioning. You have to understand, I've done this a lot to where I've got my positioning perfect so that I get the full amp damage on the Lyuda's pellet splits, right? So I make sure Terramorphous stays slagged, and I get the full amp damage on each of the pellets splitting right on his crit spot. Yes, guys, it's very difficult to do. It took me a long time to work up to this, but that's how I killed Terramorphous in 19 seconds and 23 frames. But anyway, in that video, I showed a lot of the runs that led up to the world records. Again, this run will only be each of the records themselves. And I just thought it would be good to have one video that showcased all of them. And, I wanted to take one more victory lap before I moved on. Plus, I don't think I had the full runs for some of these fights up yet. I've shown Vermivorous here. Again, he dies very quickly. Not a lot to talk about in this fight. I got really lucky with the behavior. He just stood there and let me shoot his butt. So that's 28 seconds and 50 frames for him. But I don't think with Dexiduous, Master Gee, or Hyperius I had shown the full fights yet. Some of these other ones I did, but again, I just thought it would be good to have one video with all 10 of them. I have shown the Pyro run here, but here it is again, and you can see we just shoot his face shield off, and then you want to get as much critical ascension as you can here. Now what I did was, I spec'd 1 point into 2 Fang, and then I didn't boost it with the Chaotic Neutral Rogue, but I did boost 2 Fang with the Chaotic Evil Rogue, and this allowed me to burst out as much damage as possible with the Evil Rogue, but it didn't hurt my ability to stack critical ascension during the walking phase early on that much, right? Because with the Lyuda, you cannot get an extra stack of critical ascension with 2 Fang. But that's Pyro in 34 seconds and 21 frames. Now, I believe Rain Bubble had the world record for that fight previously. He also had the world record for the Dragons previously. And oh man, if you saw the sister video to this one, man, this was a doozy. This was probably the hardest one because not only, do you have to play extremely well in the first place, they're so RNG dependent. It took me hundreds of runs to get RNG this good. So I think this will probably be the hardest one to beat. Again, just because you have to be really perfect with positioning and stuff and your aim. But then you also have to get really lucky with the RNG, so horrible fight to speedrun. It's my favorite raid boss, except when it comes to speedrunning it, just because of how much, how RNG reliant it is. Now, I actually could have got a sub 1 minute kill, but this freaking baby was harassing me, so he cost me the sub 1 minute kill, which is definitely possible. But fortunately, I locked in, I had my positioning just right, and I was able to kill Incinerator in less than 2 seconds, finally beating Rain Bubble's time by about 1 second. But yeah, Rain Bubble had the world record previously for the Dragons and Terramorphous. I think Giant Fly had the world record previously for Vermivorous, and then Rain Bubble had the world record for Terramorphous, and I believe Lazy Data had the world record for Haderax. Now for Crawmerax here, I believe Stormy Sniper previously held the world record. And this is actually my second take on this video. I did the full freaking 50 minutes of commentary, and then I realized that I had not muted the audio in DaVinci Resolve. So the audio was messed up, and I just can't believe I just went 50 minutes without realizing it. But this is take 2, so got a practice run in, I guess at least. Anyway, Crawmerax here. Again, I only actually fight him for 16 seconds. The rest of the fight is just the immunity phase, right? So very, very clear example of Gearbox's love of immunity phases here. But anyway, if you didn't see that sister video, again, it was more so the journey I went on, realizing I had the potential to get the records, and kind of telling in chronological order how I did it, the challenges I faced, the ups and downs. And again, this video will just be each of the world record runs, because I did think it would be good just to have them all together in one place. and I actually hadn't uploaded runs for Master Gee, Hyperius, or Dexiduous, and I don't really want to upload individual videos for them because, again, these speedrun videos just do not get views, so I'm just hoping that maybe by putting them all together, it'll attract more eyes. Plus, again, it's just kind of convenient to have them all in one place. Now, again, I am sure some of these records will eventually be beaten. I plan on trying to beat some of them myself, but, you know, at least at one point in time, I can say I simultaneously held all 10 world record speedruns for Zer0. Now, so this is going to be Crawmerax's last pop out here. I'm trying to anticipate him coming out of the ground to slag him with the grenades, but he is extremely resistant to slag. I barely caught him with the kunai there. He's super resistant to slag, so it's very hard to slag him with just grenades. But we go ahead and take him out in 2 minutes, 8 seconds, and 13 frames. Now here is the most boring raid boss, Dexiduous. And in that sister video, I didn't have enough time to show the full run. I showed the full runs for every fight except for Voracidous, Hyperius, Master Gee, and Dexiduous, just because those 4 fights take a long time. Dexiduous takes about 4 minutes, Hyperius and Master Gee take about 10 minutes, and Voracidous takes about 20 minutes. Now, Voracidous I have already uploaded in a separate video, just because it's Voracidous. I felt like it would be good to have him in his own video, you know. But this will be the only video that has the runs for these other 3. Now, Dexiduous, again, super boring. You pop the boils, and then you have to wait about a minute for the next set to spawn, so very boring fight. Also, just a very easy fight. Several of these raid bosses are, yeah, I've talked about it a lot, not as hard as the community makes them out to be. Some of them are, but in my opinion, with just some practice, you can beat Dexiduous, Pyrocaustic, Vermivorous pretty easily. Probably Son of Crawmerax, he's pretty tough. The main tough ones are, like, obviously the dragons are very tough. Obviously Voracidous is super, super tough. Hyperius is pretty tough, and also Terramorphous is pretty tough. But the other 6 or so, I think, you know, most people could beat if they put in some practice. Because Dexy, again, he's only got one dangerous attack. It's that poison bomb. And if you have a corrosive immunity on your B shield, even that's not a threat. The dot is the only threat here, right? Some people will probably try to say that I can only beat raid bosses because I have access to gibbed gear. If you think that, you are a fool. You can check out the most viewed video on my channel, which was where I beat all of the raid bosses legitimately with legitimately obtained gear, right? That was, I farmed all the gear that I beat all those raid bosses with. Even Voracidous I beat with a legitimately obtained Love Thumper into frickin' Fire Topnia. I didn't even have a Norfleet for that fight, which made it take forever. But when it comes to speedrunning, obviously you need to use gibbed to get perfect gear to have even have a chance, because everyone else is using perfect gibbed gear, right? So I assure you, I can beat raid bosses with imperfect gear, and I've done it many times before. In fact, with the dragons, I did a video farming them with a ton of different setups. If you guys haven't seen that video, it was one of the first videos I made, one of the earliest videos on my channel. But I did a run with purposefully poorly parted gear, like the worst possible rolls. So it's definitely doable. Now, it's definitely good. It's definitely an advantage to have perfect gear, especially for raid bossing. The main thing you want is a B shield with a corrosive immunity. There's a ton of raid bosses that will apply a corrosive dot to you, so having access to that corrosive immunity is really nice. You can see I was kind of struggling to hit some of my shots here. Other times I was waiting for Deathmark to come back. I was waiting for my Deception so I could Deathmark him. Obviously at that distance you want to lead your shots a bit. But for those of you who don't know, Dexiduous takes fixed damage when you pop his boils. There's no way to deal damage to him when the boils are gone, and he takes fixed damage from the boil pops. You can see a lot of times boils get stuck behind his limbs and stuff, so this fight's very annoying to speedrun just because he's hard to spawn in the first place and stuff, and then all the savages you have to fight before him. But anyway, the only 2 ways to make him take extra damage are with Deathmark. If you Deathmark Dexy before you pop a boil, he will take increased damage. Other than that, grenade splash damage bonuses will also, for some reason, make Dexy take more damage. So obviously Axton can kill Dexy the fastest. I think Krieg also has a way to boost grenade splash damage, so, you know, for an experienced Krieg main, there might be something you could experiment with there. But you don't even have to use a weapon with Grenade Splash. Like if you're playing Axton, you can pop the boils with the Lady Fist, and he'll still take extra damage as long as you have your Grenade Splash damage skills up, right? But Dexy is very easy and very boring. Really wish they would have done something else to make this fight a little more interesting. They could have done what they did with Crawmerax. So they're 4 minutes, 16 seconds, and 33 frames. Where like he had a weak spot on each of his leg joints. And maybe when you popped when you dealt enough damage to each leg joint, he entered like a down state where you could deal massive damage, similar to Haderax. So here's Hyperius. Oh, by the way, Dogabee had the world record for Dexy previously. Rainbubble had the world record for Hyperius previously. So you can see I started this fight out by throwing extra grenades to keep him slagged, and then hit him with the Hide of Terramorphous for some burst damage. Now, what Rainbubble did with Hyperius was he mostly used the Love Thumper. And he would just wait for his deception. Then he would come in, basically what I'm doing right now, come in and land his executes and then run out, right? He would occasionally use his grenade to try to slag Hyperius. And he had a time of, I believe, 11 minutes and 22 seconds. After some experimenting, again, I covered all my testing, all my failed runs, all the learning, all the new strategies I came up with. I covered all that in that sister video if you want to check that out. Anyway, what I eventually realized was the fastest way to do this fight is to just use the Love Thumper so that your grenade slot is freed up. And then you can use your grenade for a singularity grenade to pull the bots away from Hyperius. What this will do is allow you to repeatedly attack with the Love Thumper. The issue is if you don't pull them away, they will just overwhelm you and kill you when you keep trying to deliver melee attacks, right? And if you try to kill them, then that takes too long to get a world record speedrun, right? So the fastest method is to just use the singularity grenade to keep pulling the bots away, opening up the lanes here, allowing you to repeatedly melee attack. Pretty tedious fight, but that was the new method I discovered, and I was able to beat Rainbubble's time by over 2 minutes with this new method. This is, despite the fact that this was a pretty sloppy run. I didn't play super well, especially I botched the ending. My damage was not optimized for sure, but again, this method was just that good. And, you know, I talked about this a lot, but once I had the world record, I might as well go for other world records instead of trying to beat my own times, right? And I've been working on this for a while. I was trying to throw people off my trail. Like some people would ask me, like, they're like, why are you're so close to getting all the records, why would you give up now? And I tried to hide it and say, which I mean, I was dealing with stuff. I don't want to rehash that too much. I know you guys don't want to hear about my problems in every video, but I was dealing with some stuff that made it hard, but I did plan on going for them all. And I was trying to keep it a surprise. I think some people probably knew I was going for it. So that's why I kept saying that I didn't have time and stuff. And I think Croat figured it out because the night that I beat Voracidous, he was the last world record I needed. I posted on the Discord, Mr. TX01's Discord, that I had done the impossible, and Croat guessed it immediately. So he knew what was up. But finally, I beat Voracidous and got the last world record, and I was so relieved because I need to get to making. I need to get to streaming. I'll talk about that here in a second. Let me just talk about this fight a little bit more. As you can see, I'm just backpedaling and landing melee attacks. And then when the bots get close, I just try to throw the grenades to pull them away, right? Now, another thing I learned from Rainbubble was you can let the bots intentionally hit you so you can try to proc Counter-Strike, which will give you plus 250% melee damage, right? So, very good method, cool, good technique I learned from him. I learned a ton of stuff from the other great Zer0 players, so respect to all of them. Dogabee, Rainbubble, Borshot, they were probably the three most. But, you know, also Lazy Data, Stormy Sniper, just a ton of people I learned a lot from and pushed me to really be my best to get all these world records. You know, I mentioned this before in one of my videos. I think it was my Sniper Zer0 guide. Somebody commented something like, oh, you're a noob, dude, and you're lying about beating Voracidous legitimately. Where's the proof, you idiot? And he like kept calling me a noob, and he said I could fool the idiots who subscribe to me, but he was a pro who had 10,000 hours, and I couldn't fool him. And he said that Borshot was the god of Zer0 and the only one ever to confirm to beat Voracidous legitimately with Zer0. And I told him he could just watch the video, the full raid bossing videos on my channel. he didn't respond, and then I just blocked him. I usually just block people like that. I don't want to engage with dumbasses like that. But, you know, I guess at the risk of sounding arrogant, if anyone is the god of Zer0 now, it's me. I mean, it's hard to argue against placing me as the greatest Zer0 player of all time, right? I realize that sounds very arrogant, but if this dude is going to call me, you know, a noob and stuff, it's just kind of ironic. But, you know, I suppose I'm his god now, and his god rejects him. So that guy, I blocked him. So even if he comments something, we won't be able to see it, because what it will do is he'll still be able to comment from his end, but no one else will see it. So I can't even see it. Nobody else can see it. And I don't know what he's doing. He might, who knows? I get comments like that a lot from people who think that because they have a lot of playtime, there's some kind of authority or they're good at the game. Playtime does not equate either one of those things. You get better at something by putting intentional effort in, not just by happenstance, not just by inertia, you know. I uploaded a short of my Terramorphous speedrun world record, and somebody else commented something like that too. They were like, oh, nice try, dude, but I could beat this easily. I just won't, because I won't sign the user agreement. So very convenient that you could beat it, but you just won't because of that. Sure, buddy. Anyway, you can see we're at the 6-minute mark here, so we've got about 2 minutes left to go. We're making pretty good progress here. Now, the good news is we do have Killing Blow, which will activate at 30%, and that really helps speed up some of these fights, right? Because basically knocks off the final third of the fights. And, you know, I used to complain about the OP10 update a lot. I have tried to stop doing that so much, but for those of you who don't know, first of all, Hyperius has forced 4-player scaling. The way that raid bossing works in this game is each raid boss, for each player, each raid boss will gain 100% health, right? So for 1 player, he'll have 100% health. For 4 players, he'll have 400%. Well, Hyperius is, I don't know if it was a glitch or if Gearbox just decided F you, but even if you're a solo player, Hyperius has the 400% scaling health of a 4-player party. Master Gee also has the 4-player scaling. Now on top of that, you probably know Hyperius and Voracidous were glitched and they have double health. So I suppose Hyperius actually has 8 times the health he's supposed to have. So that's why the fight takes so long. And to be honest, this fight would be super fun if he just had the right amount of health. As it is now, it's just tedious because he's got so much health. But if he had 1/8 the health, it would be a lot of fun. Now, you got to be careful when you throw your kunai because they can reflect off of his shield. So that's why you see me going like inside the shield before I throw them. Now, another thing is, obviously, eventually you're going to run out of singularity grenades. So at that point, you'll have to swap to one of the grenades to regen your grenade ammo, right? But you can just see I'm trying to pull them back there. So see, I made a lot of mistakes here. You can definitely beat this time. Again, I think the dragons would be the hardest to beat because of the RNG and the skill both necessary to do so. I think probably Hyperius or Master Gee would be the easiest ones to beat, and I'll talk about why here in a second. Another thing is, I did do this, I play with the controller, so don't let anyone tell you that you can't get records and play well, be an elite player with a controller. You can. Now, obviously, you're going to be at a disadvantage, and I would recommend using a keyboard and mouse if you can, but I just have always liked the feel of a controller better, I guess because I played on console for a long time, and that's just what I got used to, you know, so I don't like the way it feels to play with a keyboard and mouse, but obviously I can't deny that it is the superior method. So we've almost got Hyperius to Killing Blow range here. Again, I made a lot of mistakes here, and especially I botched the ending. You'll see that when we get there. So right here, when you see me run over there to them, that's me trying to let them hit me to proc Counter-Strike, which again, I did learn that technique from Rain Bubble. So you can see Hyperius inflating there. That is because he is in rage mode now, and then he becomes a lot more difficult to deal with. And you can see he's going to keep jumping at you and attacking. So I botched the ending, but one cool thing, not a cool thing, an unfortunate thing about Melee Zer0 is that for a lot of these bigger bosses, the melee attacks don't always register properly. Sometimes they don't hit at all. Sometimes they will zoom you around, so it's very unfortunate. And fortunately, Hyperius stayed still, so I was able to get a second wind and kill him. Another world record of 9 minutes, 14 seconds, and 12 frames there. So now here we are with Master Gee. So I talked about this a bit in the sister video. If you saw my Voracidous fight, I talked about that. I talked about it too there. What I realized with Voracidous was that you can safely strip a Roid Shield even without a shock immunity. It was thought that to safely strip it, a Roid Shield, you needed a shock immunity, right? Because you have to strip it with a Chain Lightning or a Lightning Bolt. Well, for Voracidous, you have to have a corrosive immunity because he does a lot of corrosive dots. So I just did some testing with a corrosive immune hide of Terramorphous, and anyway, I ended up learning that I could safely strip it with a Chain Lightning as long as the Chain Lightning was a lower level, and as long as I held the Grog Nozzle while I did it. Now, there are complications. There are, extra things you have to consider. But this does prove that Zer0 can strip his shield even without a shock immunity, which is huge. What I'm getting at is, the reason Master Gee would be one of the easiest records to break is because I did not realize this at the time. So I'm using a shock immunity. This is a big deal because these sandworms, they try to apply a corrosive dot to you. So you've got to dodge their attacks. Obviously, if you have a corrosive immune hide of Terramorphous, that's no longer something you have to worry about, and it would make the fight significantly easier. So that would probably be the easiest record to break here. Now for Master Gee, I do actually enjoy this fight. It's just, again, like Hyperius, the bloated health is what holds it back. So again, he's got 4 times the health he should if you're a solo player, and that ends up making the fight take a long time. If he had the appropriate amount of health, I would really like this fight. I mean, as it is, I do really enjoy the core mechanic, but that holds it back a lot. Another thing I talked about is, it took me hours to learn some of the information that I'm telling you now. So when I was first doing the Master Gee speedruns, I had a couple of runs that were nearly flawless, but I was still behind Dogaby. Dogaby had the world record for this, by the way. I had 2 perfect runs, and I just couldn't understand how my time was behind his when I played so flawlessly. Eventually, I learned that sometimes the first sandworm does not spawn on time. He's supposed to spawn in about 5 seconds. In my best run, it took him 16 seconds to spawn. So that ended up costing me the world record. And if he had spawned on time, that record would have been nearly unbeatable. But he didn't. So this was the world record run I got. And I actually make a lot of mistakes, which I'll talk about when I get to them. But again, even though I made way more mistakes, just because the first sandworm spawned on time, I was still able to get the world record. But again, I do really like the core mechanic of this fight. Typically what you would do is you'll use singularity grenades to pull Master Gee into the acid pools to make him absorb them. Because the only way to damage Master Gee is you have to kill a sandworm and then get him to absorb the acid pool somehow, right? People usually use singularity grenades, but there are some other methods. So for Zer0, what you can do, why this fight is a lot of fun with melee Zer0, you can see I just killed the sandworm, and that activated Many Must Fall. That put my decoy on the corpse of the sandworm, and when Master Gee is near somebody, he will melee attack and then take a knee. Usually, not always, sometimes he kind of bugs or something and doesn't do it, I don't know. But usually that's what he'll do, and this will force him to absorb the acid pool. So you can actually make him consistently absorb the acid pools without ever having to use a grenade. So it's a lot of fun. See, I just took a corrosive dot. So you will usually die when you take a corrosive dot here. Fortunately, somehow I was able to stay alive by spamming grenades, but it did cost me quite a bit of time here. So again, that is why having a corrosive immune hide of Terramorphous will be a huge advantage for you. Now, again, I didn't test it, so it's possible there's something I don't foresee that would stall this method or make this method not work. But again, if it worked for Voracidous, I think it should work here. So you just kill the sandworm, and again, that will activate Many Must Fall, throwing your decoy. So see right here, my decoy is now right there. He tried to melee it. Now he's going to stand in place and shoot his rocket launcher at me, and then he will absorb the acid puddle. So I really like the core mechanic, but it's just the bloated health hurts it. Another thing is, if you get too close to the sandworms, they'll burrow. So there seems to be some randomness to it, because sometimes I got that close and they did burrow, and sometimes they didn't. So it just seems kind of random, which I don't like. I just wish they couldn't burrow. It would just make the fight better, in my opinion, because plus they shed slag when they burrow, and sometimes it bugs their hit detection, and then you can't hit them when they come back out, so it's really annoying. Now, Dogaby also has a fastball 0 kill here, and what he did in that video was he used a Big Boom Blaster, and he actually absorbed an acid pool himself. What this did was it constantly made him... So see, I made another mistake. I didn't slag the Sandworm there, and so I wasn't able to kill him on time. But anyway, Dogaby used a Big Boom Blaster and absorbed an acid pool himself. Now, because of this, he was constantly taking a tiny tick of damage, which meant he was constantly dropping the boosters to refill his shield and to get grenades back, right? And he just kept using fastballs to kill the sandworms. So that was a very interesting kill he did. Really recommend checking out a lot of those great Zer0 players, Dogaby, Rain Bubble, Boarshot. Really recommend checking them out. But you can see we're almost to the 6-minute mark here. Again, I think it ends up taking almost 10 minutes to kill him. So very long fight. And do keep in mind that Master Gee takes more damage when he's slagged. He takes more damage from the acid damage when he's slagged, and also death marked. So you can see my main strategy here was to, you can see I threw Kunai at Master Gee after I killed the sandworm. That was something I kept trying to do to keep him death marked as well, which again made him take increased damage. And also I would melee attack him to keep death mark and slag on him, which again makes him take more damage. So these longer fights were super mentally exhausting to speedrun because there's so much stuff you have to manage. You got to be slagging him, death marking him, you got to be avoiding both of their attacks, you got to be stripping your shield. There's just so much to manage. It's easy to make a mistake and have to start all the way over, and that just gets demoralizing really quickly, right? Another piece of advice here is the rocket speed of his rockets can change depending on the parts he has, right? So I can't remember exactly what it is. I think like a mallow on exhaust and a mallow on sight will increase rocket speed. I think there's also an accessory that increases rocket speed. So if you come in, you can look at his rocket launcher and see if he has any of that stuff. If he does, it's best to back out. Now, if you don't know what that stuff looks like and you don't want to look it up, you can just come in, and if it seems like the rockets are moving fast, you can just die and come back in or something, or leave and come back in and try to do it again. But now we're at the 7 minutes and 36 seconds mark, so we're almost there. Now, you actually cannot damage Master Gee at all on his first shield. So he's got 2 shields for some reason, but on the second shield, you can actually deal damage to him directly. However, he just has so much health that it's not really worth it. It's better just to keep trying to get him to absorb acid pools. You can see, even when I get him to killing blow range, he barely takes any damage to freaking legendary ninja perfect height of Terramorphous killing blow melee setup, just because he has so much health. Obviously, if you just want to kill, you can gate crush him easily, but if you want to legit kill, you can do something like this. Another thing I didn't mention in this video, I mentioned it in the sister video, all of these speedruns are the world records regardless of category, meaning they're the fastest overall. But Melee Zer0 speedrunning is split into melee runs and gun runs. So maybe down the road I could try to get not just the fastest overall, which I already have, but the fastest for both categories. And I actually think I might have the only gun Zer0 kill of Master Gee with Zer0 on OP10. I'm not sure about that. I guess Dogaby's run with the Big Boom Blaster would be considered in that category, and I think he did it faster than me. But I've also beat Master Gee legitimately with gun Zer0. That's actually what I did in that full raid bossing video that's the most viewed video on my channel, the one I was talking about before. I just b-hawked him and made him absorb acid pools with the singularity grenades. But that was a lot harder. It was easier to beat him this way. And you can see now we've got him in killing blow range, and you can just watch, it barely does any damage to him, even with a perfect height of Terramorphous, a legendary ninja, and plus 10 in killing blow. So super ridiculously tanky. You can see that shield he drops back there, that will regen your health if you have the acid pull debuff on you, although you can still take damage from Master Gee and the sandworms. There we go, finally got him after 9 minutes, 42 seconds, and 17 frames. And then we will be on to the main event. So obviously I've already uploaded the Voracidous kill. Oh, and right here, I mentioned this before. I did not want to shoot him with the Sandhawk and swap to the Amigo Sincero, but Boreshot did that. Other speedrunners have done that, so I didn't really have a choice. I kind of consider that an exploit, but you know, they did it. I kind of had to do it too. But anyway, I already uploaded the Voracidous speedrun, but again, I just wanted to have everything all together in one place here. So I figured I'd go ahead and run this one again. And again, it's going to be new commentary for each one, so might as well go ahead and do it. But Voracidous is obviously ridiculously difficult. One of the hardest fights in all of gaming. And there's just so many reasons why. There's so many little things to manage. I'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, I think everyone knows he's super difficult. So obviously his health was glitched as well with the OP10 update. So he's got twice the health he's supposed to have. Now every 13 seconds, he does double health gating Novas, and you have to heal swap both of these to stay alive. So you have to do that for like 20 minutes. And then on top of that, you've got the Savage Murderers trying to get you. There's just so much to manage. Now, the main key to beating him with Melee Zero is the timing on your executes. So see right there, I executed, and then shortly after, he did his Novas. So that is what you want. You want to get your timing so that after you land your melee attack, shortly after, he does his Nova. Because if you don't, if your timing is bad and he has too much time left over after your melee attack, he'll usually start jumping into you, and then it'll be really, really hard to survive. Now, if he does that, you'll need to try to melee attack him or to heal swap to keep your health up, but again, it's very unreliable. It's very hard to consistently do, so super difficult, super brutal. But Boreshot had the world record here. It was 22 minutes. He used the Love Thumper, and he played really well. He barely made any mistakes, so it was going to be really hard to beat his time with that method. So that is what led me to experimenting and realizing I could use the Hide of Terramorphous with a corrosive immunity and still safely strip my shield as long as I had a lower level Chain Lightning, and I did it with a Grog Nozzle. Now, something to remember is the Chain Lightning and the Lightning Bolt, they have a damage over time stat, and this can vary. Like, there are higher damage over time rolls and lower damage over time rolls. And obviously you want the lower damage ones, the lowest damage you can get. And it's still very tricky. Again, it's a super difficult fight. You've already got to manage all those things I mentioned. So using the Hide of Terramorphous is a high risk, high reward method, right? Because the Chain Lightning can sometimes snap back to you and down you. It usually won't happen, but it can. And you could use a Lightning Bolt to prevent that, but the issue is the Chain Lightning is also good for panic healing. If you get into a bad spot, you can just turn at an angle, throw your Chain Lightning, and it'll link to an enemy and heal you, right? Obviously, you can't do that with a Lightning Bolt. So they both have pros and cons there, but I do think the Chain Lightning is better overall. So again, you've got to not get cornered by the Savage Murderers and Voracidous, because that'll obviously get you into a bad spot. You want to go for, so see right there, again, a single mistake is all it takes and you get downed. Now, I was really lucky here, and these Savage Murderers were close enough for me to get a second wind. So see, there was a panic heal with the Chain Lightning, and then I was able to get a sneaky melee attack off there. So see, like that, he'll jump into you like that over and over again. Fortunately, his Nova it was time for him to Nova, so he didn't get to attack me too much, but that is what will happen if your timing is off. Now, obviously you want to be going for backstabs, and I talked to one of my subscribers about this. For some reason, we don't know if it's like a hit detection issue or something. Sometimes you don't get your backstab bonus. It just seems random. And I don't know if it's based on frame rate or something. I don't know. Potentially resolution. I don't know. Sometimes your backstab bonus just doesn't activate. And I thought maybe it was tied to, like, maybe if you hit his tail, it doesn't count as a backstab, but that's not it. Sometimes I think you don't get the execute bonus if you're too close to an enemy. So sometimes that could be explaining the lack of damage, but it's just random. Sometimes you hit the back and you're far away and you get the execute and the damage just randomly drops off. So I don't know. I don't fully understand it. It could be happening in other places. I just noticed it specifically with Voracidous because I was keeping a close eye on how much damage my melee attacks were doing to make sure that, you know, I was getting the expected amount of damage, right? Now, again, this method is high risk, high reward. Whenever you dot yourself, if you get hit by another attack, you will die, because obviously health gate will usually protect you from Voracidous, but if you get health gated while you have a dot, you're gonna die, right? So high risk, high reward method, but I had to beat Borshot's time. And this is another case of, I had a really great run earlier on. It was so good. I made like no mistakes. I was going like 15 minutes perfectly. Then I made one mistake and the run was lost. And actually, I didn't even really make a mistake. What happened was, as this fight progresses, as Voracidous does his Novas, there will be a slight amount of lag sometimes. And it's just enough to kind of throw you off and disorientate you. So what happened was, I shot at Voracidous to do my hill swap, and he did the Nova, and it knocked me slightly off, and I just couldn't see because of the lag, and the rounds from my Pimpernel slipped through his body perfectly and missed him, and I got downed and died. Because if you pay attention, what he does when he does the Novas is, he raises his body up, and there's a little void between his front legs and his back legs. I just picked up a love thumper there, by the way. But he raises his body up, and the rounds will slip through sometimes. That's what happened to me and caused me to die. But obviously, after you run out of grenades to strip your own shield with, you'll have to equip a love thumper, wait for your grenades to regen before you equip the Hide of Terramorphous back again, right? So that is why I've got gear stashed all around the arena. In each of the four corners, I've got a full set of Hide of Terramorphous, Love Thumper, Lethal Ninja, and Hard Unkempt Herald. The Lethal Ninja is the one that gives +6 to Killing Blow. This is because when I get into Killing Blow range, that will actually provide me better damage, right? And then for the Unkempt Heralds, I was using a double penetrating Unkempt Herald. The problem is it consumes a lot of ammo, so if you get to a point to where you might run out, you'll want to swap to a hard for reduced ammo consumption. And the only reason I didn't do that from the beginning was because this fight takes so long, I was just afraid I was missing out on meaningful damage, right? Because the double penetrating basically does 4 million damage, and the hard does 2.3 million damage. So because you have to hill swap, I don't know, it's got to be hundreds of times, I was just afraid that would add up to meaningful damage. And I don't know if it was, but again, the fight is so hard. You know, dying when you have good runs is really demoralizing. I didn't want to leave anything up to chance, you know, so that's just what I did. Again, I could be wrong, but I do think that's, I just wanted to be safe. Now, the reason I littered the gear around the edges of the arena was so that I wouldn't have to access my inventory to change it, right? Because every time you access your inventory, obviously that is going to add time to the run. So by dropping the gear all around the edges of the arena, I didn't have to access my inventory, and I saved about 30 seconds because it meant that no matter where I ended up in the fight, I had access to whatever I needed. So you can see you want to be going for backstabs, obviously, but sometimes you can't. It's really bad to miss an attack window here because the way the fight works, you can only do one attack every 13 seconds, right? So every time you miss an attack window, that's 13 more seconds onto your run. So if you're in a position to where you think you're going to miss the attack and you can't get to the back, it's better to just attack the front and at least get some damage off versus not getting any damage off, right? So there's the backstab. He jumps into me. He's jumping around a lot. So my timing is way off right here. And he had a lot of opportunities to attack me there. So again, when that happens, you'll have to try to melee to get your health back up or go for a heal swap. So kunai him, again, approach the back and get the attack off here. And see, that is perfect whenever he novas immediately after your melee attack. That's the rhythm you want to get into, but it's very hard to maintain that. Now, one thing about the novas is you can kind of use them to push you away. If you kind of jump in the air and let them hit you, they'll kind of carry you far away from him. which is what you want to do. You've got to maintain a lot of distance between the two of you, right? But yeah, super difficult fight. I'm really glad to be done with the speedruns for now. I do plan on coming back and doing some more down the road, but obviously once Borderlands 4 comes out, I'm going to be focused on it. It's kind of unfortunate. I really wish I had been making content for Borderlands 2 when it came out. It really sucks that I kind of missed the boat, and I mean, there's only a fraction of the people on the game now. It would have been really nice if I could have grown my channel during the heyday of Borderlands 2 and been making zero content then. It would have been great, but unfortunately I did miss that. But maybe Borderlands 4 can be that game for me. I don't think I'm going to like Borderlands 4 as much. That's not me trying to be a downer. That's just reality. You know, Gearbox doesn't really make characters like Zer0 anymore, so I doubt I'll ever find a character like Zer0 who's just got so many diverse playstyles, who's just as fun to play as him. He's just so fun, so specific. They do more generalized characters now. Even like his melee playstyles, like his Height of Terramorphous melee playstyle is very different to his like Love Thumper melee playstyle, you know. So then his sniper playstyles, he's got bullet hose sniper builds, one-shot sniper builds, and then he's got all his different gun builds. So I don't know, man. Rafa looks interesting to me. His melee playstyle looks fun. And probably I would say I haven't been blown away by the characters in Borderlands 4 yet, but I would say Rafa interests me the most, and maybe Vex. I don't really like pet classes, but I do like whenever you have like a summon that you control. So like Zer0's decoy is sort of like that. You could argue it's kind of like a pet, but you have complete control over it. You decide where it goes, right? I think Vex has an ability like that. I know she has one pet that is like a true pet. Pet classes just don't really interest me. But I think she had some that were like things she could summon in place, and you can kind of manipulate it that way. Like Zane's clone, I like that. You could do that and then change its position how you wanted. So that I do like more. But from what I've seen, Rafa looks the most interesting so far, and I think there's going to be DLC characters. I think they released the roadmap today. I'm not caught up on that. I'll need to check that out. I think they're going to do 2 DLC characters, so maybe one of those will really stick out to me. And hopefully the game will have, you know, just a challenging difficulty I can really engage with and be really engaged by. We'll see. I do plan on making a lot of content for Borderlands 4. Hopefully everything goes smoothly with that. The main thing I'm worried about is performance, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't they accelerate the release of Borderlands 4? Like, a lot of games get delayed, but if I'm not mistaken, Borderlands 4 was accelerated, so it's going to come out sooner. And all kinds of games come out now and have performance issues, even after they get delayed a bunch of times. So I'm really worried about performance, especially, you know, Borderlands 3 had a lot of performance issues on launch, and now Borderlands 4 is going to be open world, so it's just, and then the accelerated launch, it's just a recipe for disaster. Hopefully it performs smoothly though. Again, I did miss the boat with Borderlands 2, but as long as, you know, Borderlands 4 has characters I love and difficulty I love, I would love to make a ton of content for it. I mean, as long as it's decent, I see myself making a lot of content for it. Unless it's just like absolutely horrible or performance is just ungodly terrible, that would be the only situations where I wouldn't make content for it. But again, Rafa's melee playstyle looks interesting. And again, we'll see the DLC characters. I'm not sure how long it'll take them to come out. Hopefully they come out relatively soon. And I do plan on making content for other Borderlands games, guys. Again, I'm going to get started with the Zer0 stream soon. My first plan is to stream. I'll probably try to farm a perfect Height of Terramorphous using the community patch. Now, I do not typically use the community patch. I mean, it makes a lot of good changes, but I just want my game to be representative of what most people will be experiencing. Because when I made this PC save, which is, it's the only gaming system I have now, really, I kind of wanted to set out and see what the average console player could do. And that's actually how I made the Blooming Blades Melee Zer0 build in my Melee Zer0 guide. I got all that gear legitimately. Like, I play on PC, but I don't use the community patch or even read-only farming. Like, everything I do could be done by a console player, and I explain that in the Melee Zer0 guide. A console player could absolutely replicate that. But I just wanted to see if they could, and they definitely could. But the community patch is great because it's extremely modular. So you can enable or disable any or all parts of it. So what I'll be able to do is I'll just turn on the part that makes Terramorphous have a 1% chance to drop the perfect height of Terramorphous. Because obviously, oh, see, look, Voracidous jumped at the last second. He does that a lot. So that's just another thing you have to watch out for, man. Just such a ridiculous fight. But obviously a console player can't get a perfect height of Terramorphous. So that will be an exception, but I've already covered Melee Zer0 without it, so I do want to cover Melee Zer0 with a height of Terramorphous. I want to cover the Law and Order eventually, and even the Punchy. But I'll use the community patch, and I'll only turn on the part that gives Terramorphous a 1% chance to drop the perfect height of Terra, and I'll try to stream that first. Then I want to do Zer0 level 1 to OP10. Now, I want to finish it before Borderlands 4 comes out. And if that goes well, I'll stream my first Borderlands 4 playthrough. I probably won't be able to complete OP10. That was my original plan, but I'm running out of time. What I'm thinking about doing is, I'll do the Zer0 stream. Hopefully that goes well. Then I'll stream Borderlands 4 content and make a lot of content for it. And then once things have slowed down from Borderlands 4, then I would like to make content for, the pre-sequel, Borderlands 3, Borderlands 1. Probably the pre-sequel would be my first go-to. Aurelia is my second favorite character behind Zer0. And I could stream, getting her to max level and doing some raiding and stuff with her. I would also like to stream Borderlands 3. I did like Borderlands 3. The main thing that held me back in that game was I just didn't really have a favorite character. None of the characters really stuck out to me that I got really engaged with and fascinated by. I think Zane, I think I'll be able to get into Zane a lot, but it won't be, like Zer0 at all. But Borderlands 3 I do think is a good game. Just wasn't, I wasn't as crazy about it as I was about Borderlands 2. But I do think I could get back into it. And I would also like to stream up some Borderlands 1. So I plan on making content, streaming and making content, regular content for all those games. But for now, my plan is to, since I finally got caught up on these raid boss speedruns, again, stream that Zer0 series. Just try to work out the kinks and stuff, and then hopefully I can smoothly transition to making Borderlands 4 content. Now, I do also plan on doing weapon reviews and build videos and stuff for Borderlands 4. To what extent, again, it'll depend on how fun I find the characters, but we'll see. I'm going to have to try to catch up because I mentioned this in a past video. The content creators who got pre-release copies, they're going to have their weapon reviews ready to go and stuff, right? As soon as the game launches. So it's going to be hard for me to claw into that space. So we'll see. I'll try. I guess there'll be a bottleneck because people can only release one video a day, realistically. Once you start doing multiple releases a day constantly, you kind of flood people's notifications and people don't really like that. So hopefully I can catch up and break into the space a little bit. My most viewed weapon reviews are hovering around to 8,000 views. Most of them don't have that much. Most of them, I think on average, they probably get about 3K views. But if I can get 8K views on, a 13-year-old game, hopefully with Borderlands 4, I'll be able to get more, even with, other popular content creators dominating the space. But my goal was to get to 5K subs in the first year of this channel. I'm at 3K in about 7 or 8 months, so I think with the release of Borderlands 4, 5K should be very doable, potentially even 10K, depending on how much Borderlands 4 content I make. So hopefully I can grow my channel that way. Obviously, when Borderlands 4 comes out, and you've got Jolt's Dude and everybody making their weapon reviews, most people are just going to go to them for weapon reviews, so hopefully, like I said, I can claw into that space a little bit. But anyway, we are almost done with Voracidous here. You can see we've almost got him into killing blow range. Again, I do recommend checking out that sister video to this one, which wasn't just the runs. It was the story of how I did it, of how I realized I had the potential. Because at first I didn't think I did, and I accidentally got my first world record basically and realized I had the potential to do so. And I showed multiple runs leading up to the world record runs. And then again, with the longer fights, I couldn't show the full fights in that. So I just thought it would be good to have this video here to have all 10 of my world record speedruns together in one video. But with this one done, again, I can move on to the Zer0 stream. I think Sundays, Tuesdays, and Fridays will be the days I can stream the longest. I won't be able to stream the way some people do, like Mr. TX01 does like 6, 7, 8 hour streams. There's just no way I can do that. But I'm gonna try to see what I can do. I think probably Sundays around the afternoon, and then Tuesday and Friday mornings will be the longest streams I can do. And I'll still try to sprinkle weapon reviews and stuff in around that time too. But that is going to be my priority. I need to do a little bit of research and stuff before we get to that. But yeah, you can see now we have him into killing blow range, so we're doing a lot of attacks, a lot of damage on each one of our attacks. You can see I do have the Lethal Ninja equipped, and it looks like I do have the Hide of Terramorphous equipped, so boom, we're doing significant damage with each attack now. So I think this is this is the last attack, so I'll shut up and we can just watch this. Beautiful. Well, that was a long time in the making, but yeah, there's all 10 of my world record speedruns. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. A special thanks to my members, and an extra special thanks to my Veracity Slayers, Evan, Cass, Jake Solidor, Jonas Hedberg, Legan Weirdna, and Shadow96. Really appreciate this support, guys. But yeah, guys, I do really hope you enjoyed the video. I do hope you'll join me with my streams and follow me into Borderlands 4 content creation. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, stay safe, and be here next time.